Hi, this is Dan Wolf, and you're listening to Herp Herp Hooray.
It says here we should work in teams. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
You are about to enter Information Overload, a worldwide transmission with Herp Herp Hooray's featured Breeder of the Week. Here's your host, Jason Rossi.
All right, we're back with another information-packed show for you. You're listening to H3. I'm your host, Jason Rossi, where we bring you the reptile industry leaders. And I'm pleased to announce this week's special guest, Dan Wolf from Dan Wolf's Herpticulture, DWHerp.com. Dan, welcome to Herp Herp Hooray.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. You have a ton of cool projects that we want to delve into, so I hope you're ready.
I think I am. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with that Rio project. Why don't you give our listeners a little background on that?
Okay. The Rio, the gene came into my collection in the late 90s. Actually, it's the same group of animals that I ended up pulling the black lace and the Nova genes out of as well. I had a friend down in Miami that I put him to task going to strictly reptiles and pulling out some interesting looking females, which, everybody had the same thing on their minds back then. I don't think there maybe quite as much of that going on now. But anyway, he sent me, I think, 8 females, and, there were some different looking stuff in there, but there were 2 females that came out of one bag that looked real similar, and those ended up being the founding females for the Rio Arroyo project. And I used them just like normal females for a couple of years, just to produce morphs that I had, things like pastel stuff back then. And, I didn't really see a whole lot. I could see a little bit of difference in the pattern on some of them, and, it just wasn't really drastic, and not quite as extreme as the original females. But then, I kept a couple males that looked a little different, and I ended up breeding those back to the females, and that was in 2010. And I got the first Rios, which are the homozygous form, and I was floored. I had no idea there was that kind of horsepower under the hood with that project. I had kept back a few other females too, in addition to those males. So that gave me a nice little group of animals to start with on it. And then just for the last couple of years, instead of really focusing on producing more of the homozygous, Rio version, I've really tried to kind of expand the genetics of the project by putting some other mutations to those Arroyo females, and to not only expand the genetics, but also to get, some other genes involved. And then, of course, hopefully this year and next year, we'll be producing some cool Rio combo stuff. I'm looking forward to that.
This is definitely a cool project for sure. So what about the Black Lace Super Grant? That thing is insane.
The Black Lace project, it was one that started out in a weird way, and it's really kept me fairly confused for a long time. There was just some strange stuff coming out of that that I couldn't, I just couldn't really identify as being, one gene. And sure enough, this year I was able to pull this other thing out. I bred a Mystic Het Black Lace male back to the founding female for the whole project, and produced that animal. and that was in September. And I thought it was a black lace, just a black lace granite of some sort, you know. And at first I couldn't figure out where this granite thing had come from. There were a couple other babies in that clutch that looked really granite-y. So, you know, I went back to the original founding female, and, you know, she's got a few little speckles and things, but, you know, it wasn't enough to really get that excited about. I looked through all the of her offspring, the females that I've kept back through the years, and, you know, a couple of them, again, had that just little, you know, pepper sprinkled kind of a granite thing, but nothing too extreme. But anyway, so then 2 days ago, I hatched out another animal from a clutch. Was a Mystic black lace to another het black lace female, and that clutch has given me two of what I think is just a plain super granite. They may be het black lace as well, but they're pretty neat. They're really dark. They've got the alien heads are kind of reduced in size, but inside that the alien heads is just all this busyness. You know, lots of black flecking, and they're also kind of striped and really dark. So you know that helped a lot in explaining some of the weird stuff I've seen in the past. There's been some variation in the look of the black lace, which, you know, there is in everything, but it seemed like it may have been a little more extreme than, you know, one gene would normally dictate. So that hopefully that doesn't totally solve all the mystery. The original animal that I produced from that founding female that got me excited about the project, I had bred her to a pastel, and that was in 2004, and I had this animal pop out that I called the black lace at that time. It was really extreme, and it was kind of weird because this pastel male only bred for me 2 years, and it's a weird story. He produced 40-some offspring in 2 years, and every single one of them was female, which, you know, I never did figure out what was going on there. Unfortunately, he died after the second year breeding him, but I had a lot of pastel females I kept back from him, and I've never been able to isolate any other gene with those females breeding back into the project, and they don't look, you know, they don't look different even, but something he had, you know, triggered that, and the original female, that black lace female I produced that year, she's produced for me, and everything seems to be in line with being, you know, 100% het black lace coming out of her. So anyway, I've never been able to solve that riddle, and but this granite thing really is helping to see, you know, some of the differences that have happened in that project. And it's a beautiful animal. It doesn't look anything like the, and I call it granite, but you know, that's just kind of a vague term these days. I mean, how many lines of granite are out there, and you know, there are similarities, but the only one I know of that's proven co-dominant and that we've seen a super, these animals don't look anything like that. And that animal, I was looking on World of Ball Python, the super granite they show, I forget who produced it, but the alien heads are completely destroyed. I mean, there's no real boundary to the outside of that alien head, whereas these, you know, that the alien head is more compact and very defined, and then all the busyness happens, you know, inside of that. So anyway, I'm excited about that new gene, and to see what else we can do with that in the future.
It's a killer combo for sure. So another cool one you got there is the Gold Dust Pies. Why don't you explain that one?
That one hasn't really gone anywhere. I produced two of them, a male and a female, out of different clutches from my albino pied project a few years ago. And I bred the male. He was kind of a slow goer, but I bred him this year. And I do have one clutch left. In fact, I think it may be the last clutch that's due to hatch around the 1st of next month, from him bred to her, from the Gold Dust to the Gold Dust. I've bred him. I've had a few clutches this year already hatched from him bred to just het pied females.